What is the time?
Like
Well, I guess I'll turn my
01 plus.
Okay.
Great. It's good to see an arena full of deplorables here. My name's Bob Hendry, and I'm the county chairman for the Fayette County Republican Party, and want to welcome you to the first ever Rural Counties Republican Candidate Forum for District 9, our new United States Congressional District. The reason we decided that we would do this is because, as a good friend of mine, Ken Sutton, who was the former chairman out in my county, and I were talking one night, he pointed out that as you look at the distribution of the voters, our area, spanning from Fayette County out really to Giles County, is about 25 to 30% of the vote in this new district. And the rest of the district is across the Tennessee River, or about 8% over in Shelby County. So with that in mind, we want to make sure that we get good representation from our new United States congressmen. So we've invited all the Republican candidates to join us this evening and go through a job interview. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to ask some tough questions, and the moderator will go over the rules here in just a minute. But before we begin, if you would be kind enough to, if everyone would please rise and join me in a moment of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come here tonight as a free people who can worship you and give thanks for the opportunity of securing and selecting our own government and our representation. It's unique in the world, it's unique in world history. It's a wonderful privilege that you've bestowed upon the United States of America, and we ask for your continued blessing in terms of delivering us the freedom and the rights that you have given to us through our United States. And Lord, we ask for your blessing upon these candidates, that you will give them sharp minds and the ability to answer quickly and effectively. And we ask for everyone to be safe traveling tonight in this difficult rain that we have. It's in the holy, holy, holy name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, our God and King, we pray. Amen. Amen. If you will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. I want to thank a few people, first of all, for the help that they've given to us. This is as I mentioned, this is a collaboration between 6 of the 9 rural counties that are in this district. Fayette, Hardeman, McNairy, Hardin County, Wayne County, and Lawrence County have all contributed to this effort in various ways, and I want to thank everybody who's representing those counties and who has helped out with this. In particular, I'd like to thank the McNairy County Republican Women's Group for their effort in getting the room set up and facilitating this tonight. Could we please give them a round of applause? Thank you. From left to right tonight up here on the stage, as you are looking at them, we have State Representative Todd Warner, Charlotte Bergman, Jeremy Thompson, and State Senator Brent Taylor. Y'all ready to be put through your paces tonight?
Yes, sir.
Great, great. Our timer this evening is Stephanie Taylor, Secretary of the Tennessee Federated Republican Women. Stephanie? And our moderator this evening is C. Richard Archie, the West Tennessee Director of the Tennessee Firearms Association. We put the questions together through kind of a rigorous process by soliciting questions from all of the different counties. We took all those questions, formed a small committee, refined those questions down to where we have about 7 questions this evening for these candidates, most of which are directly relevant to how the federal government interacts with agriculture and rural counties. So I think they're going to find this to be a little bit of a unique candidate forum in that regard. And then finally, I want to thank Channel 7 from Jackson for being here tonight and recording the event, and also the Hatchie Press, which is live streaming on Facebook right now. Thank you very much. Now, with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our moderator, C. Richard Archie, and let's get started. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
The order of seating from left to right has been established based on each participant having drawn random numbers earlier today. The order in which participants will answer questions is based on the seating and will shift to the right with each new question. This is not a debate. Rather, this is a job interview for congressional hopefuls. The questions we are asking tonight were solicited from members of each county in State Senate District number 26, which are now part of the newly established United States Congressional District number 9. They are Fayette, Hardeman, McNairy, Hardin, Wayne, and Lawrence counties. Each participant will be given 90 seconds to answer each question. At the end of 90 seconds, the time is up and the buzzer will sound. If a participant is called out by another participant during their answers, we will allow 30 seconds for rebuttal time after the question has been answered by all participants. Raise your hand if you want to do that, and we've already gone over that. There is to be no interrupting of another participant. I won't allow that. At the conclusion of the questions, we will give each candidate 1 minute to present their closing remarks. Are there any questions from the crowd or from the participants of the rules? Okay. We will begin this evening by asking each candidate, and we will start on the left and go to the right for that. What is your reason for being here tonight? Why are you running for Congress?
Left to right.
That's you.
Stop. But I was number 4, so
I
number 4.
said left to right.
All right, left to right. So, look, I'm running for Congress for the same reason I am in the state Senate. I've been a fighter that wins. I'm a fighter who never backs up. I have fought Tennessee's only Soros-funded DA, and that ultimately led to President Trump sending the Memphis Safe Task Force to Memphis, where they have literally cut crime in half. And it all began with my effort to fight crime with Make Memphis Matter. And making Memphis Matter was never about just Memphis proper. It's always been about West Tennessee, because the crime that has existed in Memphis and Shelby County before President Trump reduced it, that crime did not stay in Memphis and Shelby County. It traveled right out Highway 64 through Fayette, Hardeman, McNairy, Hardin, all the way out, and it's impacted the communities here. We've seen what the fentanyl that's coming across the border that makes its way through Memphis first. We've seen what that gang activity looks like, and that Make Memphis Matter effort, again, was more than just about Memphis proper. It's always been about West Tennessee. Tennessee won't reach her full potential when Memphis is sliding into chaos. I worked hard. I didn't back up. I didn't lose my time and my effort. We fought that Memphis crime, and we won by holding our DA accountable and making sure that he prosecutes crime the way it should be prosecuted. And we're do that with accountability measures. Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here. I think it's important to say thank you to all of you who take your time to come out to these events. And I want to encourage everyone when you leave to go generate energy in this party, because we have a lot of work to do in DC. Regardless of who you send to DC, we've got a lot of work to do. It's not single issue anymore. It's a multi-component issue. So the reason I'm running for United States Congress is because I believe in service to the people. Our issues are greater than the state of Tennessee. I love the state of Tennessee, but I also love my country enough to die for it. I hope that I've demonstrated that with 22 years of military service, where I currently serve as the Executive Director for the Special Operations Association of America in DC on major veteran and national security issues. I've been in the House and the Senate and worked with the executive on a number of items over the last 10 to 12 years. It's something I'm very proud of. I think it's something that has to continue. But what triggered me into this and catapulted me into running for Congress is we're losing our country. We started losing our country in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected, and we're still fighting to get it back. We have to pay attention to that. We have to be out in front of that. We've got 12 years now, 8 under Obama and 4 under an irrelevant Biden, who have completely, fundamentally messed our country up. And we have to work to get it back. I want you to send me to DC so I can focus on those multi-component issues and get our country back. Thank you for having us tonight.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charlotte Bergman. I am the candidate for U.S. Congress to represent Tennessee District 9. I actually was the first person who was certified to run in this district. I'm thankful that the Supreme Court decided that elections should not be made, or elections should not be decided upon based upon the color of one's skin, but based upon the content of one's character. I love this country. I love this country so much. I love our president. I love each of you, and you are making a huge contribution to our state, and I appreciate being among you. I'm a graduate of Christian Brothers University. I have worked in numerous administrations at the federal level. I have participated in appropriation meetings and various other meetings. Why? Not because I had to, because I wanted to, because I saw that socialism was taking over our nation. I saw that our young people were being forced to accept a way of life that many of them were not raised to accept initially, but it was a sliding slope. They began to accept those things, and it is beginning to destroy our nation. We had a president who ran in 2016, and he decided to turn things around. He is now doing a terrific job in 2024 to make sure that our country is strong, safe, prosperous, wealthy, and great. Thank you.
Thank y'all for being here, and I'm gonna stand too. I like to, when I'm speaking, like to stand up. Thank you. I'm Todd Warner. I'm an 8th generation Tennessean, born right here in the heart of this district in Marshall County. Married to my wife, Cindy, for 35 years. I have 3 children and 2 grandkids. I'm a small business owner, and I'm a farmer, and I feel your pain. I feel your pain every time you go to the grocery store, every time you go to the gas pumps, every time that small farmer goes down to the co-op and buys that load of fertilizer. I feel it because I'm living it too. This country's $40 trillion in debt, and that's unacceptable. You want to know what the greatest danger to this country is? It's our national debt. We're going to bankrupt this nation if we're not careful, and our children for generations are going to pay for it. Trump needs backup, and I'm that guy. I'm sick. You want to know why I'm running? I'm sick and tired of the career politicians in Washington, the rhinos, the bureaucrats that say they're listening, but they continuously turn a deaf ear on us. That's what I'm sick of, and that's why I'm going to Washington, and I want to serve you. I've served in Nashville for 6 years, where I've consistently been the most conservative member in the state house, and I've consistently voted my district. We have a serious problem on our hands. DC needs a fighter, and I'm that fighter. Thank you.
All right, you might as well stand up, Todd, because you folks are fixing to be first on the next one. Here's the question, and this comes from a local county commissioner. This new congressional district includes 9 counties that border Mississippi. All these counties suffer from inadequate emergency health care. In fact, most rural emergency facilities have closed. Federal regulations makes health care a state-based issue. Washington has made dollars available to states for rural health care, but this doesn't fix the current problem. The inability of border counties to share emergency care and ambulance services across state lines prevents these counties from securing federal funding to provide essential emergency care. McNairy County spent 8 years working with 2 states, multiple insurance companies, and healthcare providers, and is finally getting it done. But it shouldn't take 8 years to negotiate the ability of health care for rural American communities. What is your plan to fix this situation?
Well, healthcare is definitely not one of my, I guess you would say, fortes, but one of the first things I think we got to do, Archie, is I think we've got to have competition. We've got to allow these companies to cross state lines. The next thing we got to do, make sure we do, is we secure our Social Security. We've got to stop borrowing from our Social Security and make sure that that's in place for years to come, for the people that's paying now that it might not be here. But I think the biggest thing we can do is try to keep government out of it as much as we can, and we got to open up the competition to go across state lines and help these rural counties in that such matter.
Ms. Charlotte?
Thank you for that question. You know, health care is extremely important to each and every one of us, including our children. I think it's imperative for the government to get out of the way, first of all. And it is imperative that people are allowed to have not only health care, but not have to be concerned about health insurance, which there is a difference in the two. I believe in health saving accounts. I believe that rural hospitals need to be built and be in the various counties. I want to talk with people in leadership who would like to sit down with me and discuss specifically what your needs are in your particular county so we can get this done and address your concern. Your concerns are my concerns, and they are worth looking at, resolving, and coming up with solutions. We cannot answer all of the nuances pertaining to healthcare right now, but we can make you aware, or I can, that I'm here for you. I'm concerned about healthcare, I'm concerned about life, concerned about liberty, I'm concerned about the pursuit of happiness, and that's what each and every one of you deserve here. Thank you.
We just go with this. They're standing up, we'll stay sitting down, I guess. All right, so my perspective on healthcare and what's going on with insurance is probably uniquely different. What I've watched in my home county of Lincoln, and I'm sure you're experiencing it too, is the hospitals and ambulance services are systematically losing their ability to stay relevant and funded. Why is that? We were in crisis leading into 2008, but when Barack Obama got elected and moved us into an expedited system of socialized health care, we fundamentally lost our ability to stay relevant and competitive in a free market system. So what we're watching now is everybody struggling to keep their head above water in the public and private sector. What I think government needs to do is get out of the people's business. We have to start deregulating, but we can't talk about it anymore. We have to be about it. When we start talking about deregulating and getting back to a system that promotes free market competition, what we have to do is get out in front of it more aggressively than we are. I think Trump and Trump 1 had a 2-for-1 proposal on all federal agencies that if you proposed a new rule or regulation, you had to turn in 2. Now he has proposed a 10-for-1 program that got implemented in 2025. I would argue that it probably needs to be 20 to 25 to 1. But whoever you send to Congress has to be out in front of that conversation and get government back under control and accountable to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of things. First, I want to say that as your congressman, I'm going to work to ensure that ambulances will be able to go to the nearest hospital, which in this case happens to be Magnolia Health down in Corinth. They're only about 15 miles away. I've dealt with this at the local issue. When I was on the county commission and local government, we had the exact same issue. And I carried the legislation at the local level that allowed ambulance services to be able to transport people from within one city into another city to get to the hospital. I've already done that. I did that 20 years ago when I was in local government. The other thing that I think it's important is that we need to make sure that the emergency room that's being built now, that it has the resources that it needs to be successful, along with Lifespan, which is right across the highway. As you know, there's a helipad that is being built, and Mayor Smith, and by the way, to be mayor in McNairy County, you gotta have the name Smith. I see my friend Mike Smith, former mayor of McNairy County, and John Smith, mayor of Selmer, and Larry Smith, mayor of McNairy County now. I have toured that facility, and the helipad is needed, and there were $215,000 in federal resources that were needed. As your congressman, I would make sure that those resources are available for that helipad for your healthcare needs here in McNairy County.
All right, the next question. This question comes from a local cattle farmer. Over the past decade, federal regulation has increased financial pressure on cattle farmers. A few years ago, farmers could obtain medicines to treat livestock over the counter at the feed and supply stores. Now, obtaining these same medications requires transporting an 800-pound animal to the vet. You got to pay the vet bill, you got the labor, the time, the fuel, and the stress on the animal. But thanks to Washington, we cannot obtain routine livestock medications without going to this trouble and expense. What will you do in Washington to help small ranchers and farmers? And Ms. Charlotte, it's your turn.
Thank you. If I'm correct, I think that medicine that the government and various people don't want the farmers to have access to is ivermectin, which was proven to be a good form of medication that was necessary to address major issues that the cattle and the cattle farmers needed to use in order to protect their animals. Now, what would I do? First of all, I would get government out of the way. That is extremely essential. I will also make sure that the farmers will be able to have such a lifestyle that they will be able to afford the things that they need in order to take care of their cattle. That would mean making sure the regulations are reduced, making sure that taxes are reduced so that people will have extra revenue in order to take care of their cattle, to take care of their farms, to take care of their home and their livestock. I think it's imperative that we understand that our nation cannot survive without our farmers doing the jobs that they need. And when it comes to having cattle and not being able to export the cattle as needed in order to gain the extra revenue that they need, it puts an impediment on every single thing that a farmer or someone will want to do in order to protect their livestock.
So we're small cattle producers ourselves, and I don't think this is an exclusive issue for United States government overreach. The common theme on a lot of these answers is going to be that we have to deregulate and get government out of our business, okay? So you can rewind all the way back to the 1980s when everybody around here saw cattle farms thriving, especially dairy farms. And then you watch the United States government come in and systematically shut down cattle farms, especially the dairy farms, to gain almost exclusive government control over those operations. And that systematically took away the right for people to farm at a lower level over the 1980s, 1990s, and now into the 2026. So when I go to the co-op and I buy my feed and I look at our price and cost ratios, even with a small head count, we don't turn a profit anymore. I don't know how you guys do it on a bigger level, but what I do see is the federal government coming in time after time, catering to corporate farmers and leaving small farmers in the dark. And what I would do as a United States congressman is get out in front of the USDA and other federal agencies and tell them to get out of your lives, deregulate, cut back, and make it a little bit more affordable, a little bit more able to manage small head farms and even small row crops. I think that's where we have to be, is in a deregulation state of mind. Whichever one of us gets the job has to go to DC with a deregulation initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. The crux of the question deals with regulation. And in the state Senate, I have dealt with regulatory reform. We passed that legislation earlier this session. I was one of the co-sponsors of that legislation. And I was also on the Government Operations Committee for the first 2 years I was in the Senate. And I will tell you, when the commissioners were coming before us to have their rules approved, I held them accountable to ensure that these regulations were first necessary, and what regulations have you cut in order to make room for the new regulation. Many times they haven't. And one of the things that I want to do is to ensure that Congress has the Tennessee model. In Tennessee, every board, regulatory board, when they promulgate rules, it has to be approved by the legislature through the Government Operations Committee. And I would recommend that in Congress we do the same thing. Right now, when the regulatory boards pass regulations, Congress can only overturn it by taking a vote to overturn it. What I would do is we need to invert that and follow the Tennessee model, where when those regulations are promulgated, that they don't go into effect until Congress has actually put their stamp of approval on it. And the other thing is I have worked and fought to deal with deregulation of wetlands. And you should not treat, no longer in Tennessee do we treat tractor ruts the way we do the Hatchie River bottom. And that's the type of deregulation that I want to do when I go to Congress.
Next question.
He hasn't been.
Oh, Todd, sorry, I
That's
forgot
okay.
you down there. That's my
Mr.
fault.
Richards.
Go ahead.
It's okay. Again, my answer would be some of the same of what we've already heard. We've got to get government away from the farms altogether. I grew up on a small dairy farm in the early '80s, and watched my family farm their way out of the dairy business. And a lot of it was to do with government and the regulations that they put on it. Also, milk, got a lot of competition now. You see oat milk, you see almond milk, you see every kind of milk out there. So that's partly to blame, but the government has got to get out of the way. We have something going on right now down in Texas, some of you may have heard about, and I'm sure you beef farmers are concerned about. It's that screwworm that's down there that enters through a baby calf's navel or whatnot. And it's a flesh-eating fly. Starts out as a maggot and turns into a fly. And it will actually eat the animal from the inside out. So that's something we got to be very, very careful here and make sure that we don't get that fly up into Tennessee, or it's in Texas. It don't need to get out of Texas. But it's things like that we gotta see after. But the days of government putting regulation on the farmers, it's gotta stop. The margins are too thin. We know what the inputs cost us right now, the fertilizer, the seed, the diesel, but yet we're still selling the same crop for prices that sold back in the 90s. We've got to turn that around. We've got to have someone that's going to fight for those ideas. Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry about that. All right. Next question. The cost of agricultural inputs, as he just referenced, has skyrocketed over the last several years. If trends continue, some sources project a 40% reduction in American agricultural production within 5 years' time. What is your specific plan to address the challenges facing American agriculture in terms of cost of production right now? Jeremy, it's your turn.
So I looked into this a couple of days ago in connection with the current farm bill that they're struggling with, but the farm bill is not comprehensive for all issues facing agriculture. One thing, if you don't know, that's unprecedented in recent history is the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has recognized agricultural security as national security. One of the first times in U.S. history that a Department of War or a Secretary of Defense has come forward and said that our budget is 4 times higher than that of United States agriculture, and that's a problem because we've systematically been interfered with by our foreign adversaries, not just to take away farmland and position themselves against strategic military installations across the spectrum, but to systematically chisel away at the American way of life and create things like inflation and cost, which is systematically pushing farmers out of business. Pete Hegseth said farm security or agricultural security is national security. And if we don't start addressing it in that capacity, we're going to fail in the very short term. I don't know if there's a timeline put on that, but what I will tell you is government has to be deregulated. It has to get out of our business. We're not going to turn things around until we start holding institutions accountable. And if you'll send me to DC, I will be the accountability measure. I will be in the faces of those who don't want to have those hard conversations. That's where I've been for the last 12 years. That's where I will continue to be until we see the needle move in the direction that supports you at the ground level. Thank you.
Thank you. What is driving the input costs as it relates to cost of fertilizer and fuel? Is really it has to do with energy independence and our ability to generate our own energy. We need more refineries here in the United States to refine the oil so that we can have plenty of fuel, whether it be diesel or gas. We also need to be energy independent when it comes to oil and coal. We should be burning coal, clean coal, to ensure that we have energy. It takes energy to produce fertilizer. And so it's when we don't have enough electricity And by the way, Tennessee is an energy importer. We don't generate enough energy that we use. We have to import it from other states. We can't be successful as a state if we're going to do that. I've dealt with this in the state Senate. The only data center bill that came out of the legislature this past year was a bill that I sponsored and got passed through the legislature. And it basically says that data centers, which have an insatiable appetite for electricity, that if you put in a data center, they have to bring their own power. And that saves money for ratepayers like you and I, but it also ensures that it keeps rates low for the companies that are coming here and that generate, that produce the fertilizer and the fuel and everything that farmers need to operate their farm. I've already dealt with this at the state level. I want to deal with it at the federal level as your next congressman.
Todd?
Thank you again, Mr. Richard, for the question. I want to hit on a couple of things real quick. The Farm Bill was mentioned. This Farm Bill that's being discussed in Washington needs to be about one thing. It needs to be about the farmers. It don't need all the pork attached to it that they're going to try to stick in there when it comes time to pass this Farm Bill. It needs to be about one thing, and that's helping farmers and helping small farmers. Number two, we don't hear as much about it now, but we've heard about it in the past years, the ethanol plants. I'm not sure it makes sense to make ethanol when fuel is $2.50 a gallon or $3. But when diesel fuel is $5 or $5.50 a gallon, like we've seen, it may start making sense to put more of those ethanol plants online. And then that would help the farmers when they go to sell their corn. It would give them another option and maybe get those commodity prices up a little bit. But at $2 fuel, it may not make sense to turn that corn into fuel. At $5.50, we definitely need to be looking and seeing if we can turn that corn into fuel. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, the farmers here are experiencing the pain that many in the United States are feeling from inflation, from higher taxes, from the extreme regulations that are placed upon people who are trying to survive. There are approximately 783 farms in this county, covering a span of about 225 acres. It means you guys actually rock. You guys do a great job, but you've got the federal government that is placing its thumb on your ability to be successful. You've got the federal government preventing you from having the energy that is needed in order to make sure that you're able to run your equipment, and to do the things that you need to do on your job. But there's hope that's on the way. I know that the president is dealing with what is happening in Iran, and I know that Iran chooses to not really come to the table in order to make sure that the MOU is actually solid. We're having to deal with that, but as I have suggested, we are hurting right now. Yes, the price of gas is going down just a little bit, but trust me, this pain that we're going through, the pain that you're going through, even though it appears to have been going on forever, you're going to see improvements after the midterm election. So vote for me so that I can go and fight for you and make your life better.
Jeremy?
It was my question.
All right. Our next question is, our federal tax dollars are being used to expand solar energy production on rural land by compensating the landowners at rates 6 times what farmers can afford to lease the same land for. A solar farm will take the land out of agricultural production for about 20 years at least. Farmers cannot compete with federally subsidized solar energy production. Tennessee has an energy deficit problem. The state needs more electrical production right now. Solar is the least effective form of electricity production in terms of megawatts per acre. What is your plan to redirect federal dollars to increase agricultural production and energy production for Tennesseans? Mr. Brent?
Well, first of all, it's not solar. We all saw today that solar would do you no good as it relates to today. the important thing is we need to make sure that family farms are productive and profitable. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to turn to the solar farms to sell their or lease their land to the solar companies. And so we need to be smart about how we do this. There are different ways to do it, and I have seen where some of the solar farms that go into effect, that they raise them high enough so that they can have livestock beneath them, so they can keep the grass mowed, if you will. But also when hailstorms come, it breaks those panels and it puts the shards of glass into the ground. And so that is not the answer, trying to figure out how to use solar on farmland. What we ought to be doing is trying to figure out how to preserve the farm. And that's why I support the legislation. The Farm Bureau was a key piece of legislation for them, and it was the Farm Preservation Act, where people could put their family farm into conservation and they would be paid for that so that they can keep that farmland as farmland. This solar nonsense is not the way to ensure that people who own the land, that they can be profitable.
Todd?
Thank you, Richard, for the question. Again, I'm not a fan of wind. I'm not a fan of solar. This country has an abundance of natural resources, of energy in the ground, fuel in the ground. We need to go get it. We need to turn our corporations in this country loose and let them retract all the energy they can get. As far as solar, not a fan of it. I've never been proposed. I have a farm of about 1,200 acres. They've called a time or two to sit down with me and want to, negotiate something out for the solar farms, and I'm just not interested in it all. And again, I think it takes away from our farms, and in the long run, it's going to hurt us here in the state. We shall not forget here in Tennessee that agriculture is still the #1 industry in this state, and we must do everything that we can to protect that. Thank
you. I can remember in 2009, people were talking about the solar farms. We have a president now who understands that energy is important, not only for the whole country, but specifically for you farmers, to bring prices down. I'm a strong supporter of drill, baby, drill. I'm a strong supporter of mine, baby, mine. I'm supporting this because this energy, the need for energy to run your farms, to do what you need to do in order to be successful, to get your products to market. I believe in expansion. I believe in exports. The farmer tends to only have certain markets that they're able to sell their products to here in this area. Tennessee needs to be the premier state whereby products are produced and sold, and we should not have products imported here, but your products should be sold and you should be able to be successful. We need you guys. I think about the young people who go to the grocery store, who live in the city, and they go to the produce department and they think the vegetables and produce grows in that area. Or they go to the meat department and think the meat comes from there. You guys are the backbone of this nation, which is making us great. But we've got to do our part to make sure that energy is low enough and you have the items that you need in order to be successful. Thank you.
So I think the answer to this is we're all tired of living in this fairy tale concept created by the Democrats over the last 12 years of our lives. That's what I think. I think that we need to continue to have this discussion and talk about how inefficient that solar farms and other power sources are. It's part of this weird ideology and concept implemented by the Democrats and the far left train of thought that's putting us further and further behind in the energy development complex. So what I've done in just a little bit of research is I found out how disastrous solar farms really are. We respond to them all the time as a volunteer fire department in our county, where the power banks often catch on fire and burn themselves to the ground, which causes bigger issues. They're unsustainable. The maintenance on them are horrific. So one of the things that Donald Trump did, and I would fully support and advance if in DC, is that he opened up coal mining in East Tennessee that had been shut down by the two previous Democrat administrations. What that did was opened up about 15 gigawatts of power, and I didn't know really what that meant because I'm no expert in the field. But what I will tell you is the Tennessee Valley Authority's annual pull or distribution is about 17 gigawatts. So that meant something to me. That meant that we don't have to have solar farms, wind, and other resources to sustain or to be multi-generationally competitive as we move our country forward. We have to tap into our resources, get rid of this fairy tale, and carry our country forward in a better direction. Thank you.
85% of Americans from both parties favor mandatory identification and proof of citizenship to vote. But the SAVE Act is held up in the Senate, in particular by the Republican Speaker, Senator Thune. When you're confronted with the situation in which the wishes of your constituents and the Constitution demands conflict with party leadership in Washington, what will you do? And Todd, you begin again.
Thank you, Richard, again. And I carried a bill this time in the House, and again, it goes back to what I said in my opening statements. Rhinos are the problem, okay? Rhinos and career politicians are the reason we can't get a bill like this passed. I carried a bill this time in the House that would allow each county, once the SAVE Act was passed, if it gets passed, to every 2 or 3 months for that county election administrator to compare with what the state has on. That way, if someone passed away or someone moved out of the state, that county could check them off. And you know what? Right here in the state of Tennessee, couldn't even get it out of committee. A committee stacked with Republicans. Same problem we have in Washington. We have too many politicians that's been up there too long that forget where they come from. They don't listen to their constituents. Statistics show the majority of folks across this United States want secure elections. And whatever it takes to get them secure, that's what we need to do. We've seen what happened last time when they stole the election from President Trump and stole it from you. It was wrong, and we can fix it, and we should have leaders up there that's willing to stand up, fight, and get that done. If they're not going to do it, it's time for them to leave Washington. That's the problem. They stay there too long. They don't understand what a term limit means. Thank you.
Oh boy, this is a very interesting subject, the SAVE Act. Save America Act specifically. It's time that we do what is needed to save America. We've had illegal immigrants who have been voting in our elections. We actually need to be able to have legislation passed and the bills go to the president's desk to ensure that our elections are secure, that election committee members do their jobs to certify a valid election. We need to make sure that the rhinos who are in Washington, D.C., who feel very comfortable in their positions, understand that you and I are not happy with what is not going on in Washington, D.C. in terms of getting that Save America Act passed. Now, it's been passed in the House multiple times. The House members have done their jobs. But when it gets to the Senate, it stalls, and Thune says, well, we just don't have enough votes. Well, I'm here to say, as your next congressional congressman, I will bring pressure upon those senators by going before the public and making an appeal to encourage people to get out and vote them out. I will like to make sure that they understand they are accountable to us, and it is their jobs to make sure that the Save America Act is passed, because it is destroying our nation when we have illegals and when we have elections that are not right.
I think this is a matter of centralized control and power. That's what I think this is about. So we own the House, we own the Senate, and we own the executive right now. And that's the common rebuttal on the left, right? The left comes back and says, they own the House, they own the Senate, they own the presidency, and they're not moving the needle on anything. Well, we have to own it by more of a 3 or 4 person majority. And this is what I'm going to say that's a little bit unpopular, but it's real and it's something I believe heavily in. We are abandoning our civil responsibility as voters. That's what this is really about. We have not, for many, many years, taken politics seriously. I don't even want to be called a politician, just to be honest with you. But I don't believe good people continue to sit in the dark and make something good happen. So that's why I'm here on the stage with you. But what this is about is people who want power, they want to retain it, and they want tit for tat in the United States Congress. If you don't vote this way, I won't vote that way. We have to build coalitions, but the coalitions have to be built based on the people's responsibility of getting back out and voting. We're turning out less than 30% of our voters in any election across Tennessee or the country right now. Some Tennessee counties are turning out less than 20%. And down to 18%. And it's not sustainable. If you want a reckless, out of control government that's just going to do what they want to do and have no accountability to the people, keep doing that. Keep allowing that to happen. If you don't, get out in your communities, motivate the voters, inform them, educate them. That's one of the primary responsibilities of a United States Congressman, by the way, is to educate the voters on the United States Constitution. That's something I will take very seriously if elected. Thank you.
Thank you. The SAVE Act, as you know, has passed the House. It's stalled in the Senate. A new Congress will be seated in January. I will vote as many times as it takes to get the SAVE Act passed, whether it is to pass the House and to try to get the Senate to pass it as well. Look, I've dealt with this issue when I was chairman of our election commission. Obviously state law requires, states already there requiring an ID for people to vote. But when I was on the election commission, I was the one that made sure that when illegal aliens were caught voting when they shouldn't be voting, that we actually turned them over for prosecution. I did that when I was on the election commission as chairman. The other thing, the greatest vulnerability that I believe election commissions have is with the voter rolls. Look, we do a really good job, I think, of ensuring that we protect the ballot box and that when people show up to vote, that we verify that they're American citizens. When we find out they're not, we prosecute them. But the greatest vulnerability is the voter rolls, because a bad foreign actor like China can hack into that voter roll and they can actually show that perhaps Mike Smith has already voted when he hasn't. He shows up and they're not going to allow him to vote. Or they may show that remove his name altogether, so when he shows up to vote, he's not allowed to. He has to cast a provisional ballot. We have to do more to harden our voter rolls if we want to really protect the integrity of our elections, to protect them from foreign actors like China.
History demonstrates that small numbers of ideologically fervent insurgents or zealots can overthrow established governments. We are witnessing these efforts unfold on behalf of Islam across much of Western Europe today. Some American Islamists have proclaimed that they will use our own body of laws to overthrow the United States and establish an Islamic State on American soil. At what point do the protections of the First Amendment no longer apply to groups leveraging it to subvert the United States government? Ms. Charlotte, your turn.
Sharia law is not compatible with Christianity. But there are so many people who make excuses for people who do not share our values to stay in this nation. And as their groups get larger and larger, they try to acquire more power than ever before. I appeal to you to stay awake, to make sure, to be careful, to look around your communities, and to make sure that people who come to the United States and bring their Sharia policies, religion with them, that they understand there's no place for Sharia law in the United States. It is dangerous to our nation. It is dangerous to even your neighbors, your children. And once they gain the power, there's no stopping them. And I think it starts from the beginning We cannot be like Europe. We cannot be like other countries who are extremely compassionate and are saying we should not be considered racist. We need to protect our country.
Good deal. You won't let me steal it. Thank you for the question. So I have a unique background in Sharia law and Islam with my deployment to Afghanistan right after the World Trade Centers were attacked in 2001, and I lived with these people. I operated with these people for a 12-month special operations deployment, and what I'll tell you, and I've said it before, there are good people in every culture and religious background, but Charlotte said it, we're completely incompatible, and we cannot allow Islam or Sharia to enter the United States of America. It cannot happen. When you come to the United States of America, whether it's in the Constitution or not, the expectation is that you assimilate. Assimilation means you learn English. Assimilation means that you learn our culture and you do what you can to adhere to it and support it. You pledge allegiance to our United States flag. You stand up for the things that made our country great. Don't bring your crap or garbage to the United States of America and expect a red-blooded American to stand by and accept it. We've been ideologically conditioned over the last 20 or more years of our lives to sit back and say, it's okay, they're good people, they're not here to do anything bad. I'm here to tell you that we will be ideologically infiltrated the next 20 to 30 years if somebody doesn't stand up, hold this issue accountable, and say not in the United States of America. Sharia law cannot establish itself or sustain in the United States. It's incompatible with our United States Constitution, and it's strictly protected in the Establishment, Supremacy, and Commerce clauses. And somebody has to stand up and have that conversation. It can't be uncomfortable. It has to be dominant in the United States Congress.
We're not going to be infiltrated. We're already infiltrated by immigrants who come in here who do not have our best interest at heart. They're changing the culture of our country. And what we have to do is we have to take every turn we can to stop normalizing these kinds of folks. For example, in the Senate, we'll have these feel-good resolutions, and there was one that came up just this last session, the Arab American Heritage Month. There were four senators that voted against that. I was one of them. We have to stop normalizing these types of people. We also have to put a stop to this immigration. You know, when we had immigrants come in from Italy and from Ireland back in the first part of the 20th century, and when they came here, America, they cut off their immigration to allow those folks an opportunity to assimilate. We have people coming into this country faster than they can assimilate. They're changing our culture. There was a gentleman that I heard the other day on some news show that I was watching, and he said that we have to do more to send money, foreign aid back to his country. Hell, this is our country. We shouldn't be sending foreign aid back to these countries. They can hate us for free. And Richard, as it relates to the Second Amendment, and you were asking what protections about the First Amendment. The Second Amendment was designed to protect the First Amendment. It's not about deer hunting. It's not about duck hunting. It's about being able to throw off a tyrannical government. When we keep letting these illegal aliens in, we may find ourselves at that point.
Todd?
Thank you, Richard. It's time to say no. Stop. No more Sharia law, no more Islam, because we've seen what it's going to do. You can't change these folks. They're radicals. 90% of them are radicals that you will never change. This past General Assembly, we voted on a bill in this state. Most of you thought it was a school choice bill. It was a school choice bill, partially a school choice bill. It's called a voucher bill. You know what's going on in that bill? One of us on this stage voted for that bill. One of us didn't. Guess what's going on? Goes right to the heart of the question he asked. We're funding Muslim schools in this state with your tax dollars. That's the reason myself and 20 more Republicans, or what I call true conservatives in the state house, voted against it. It wasn't because we were against school choice. It was because that we were concerned that these schools were going to get the money, and this money was going to be spent and taught to hate us, to hate the very principles and values that we stand for. I asked those questions in committee, and guess what? The Speaker of the House stripped me from those committees because I brought those kind of questions up in the committee. And I won't be scared to bring them up in Washington, D.C. either. I'll stand with you. We got 6 schools in this state that you're funding with your tax dollars that's going to Muslim schools. You tell me if that's right. If you agree with it, tell me after. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Taylor raised his hand to.
Yeah, thank you. Look, the school choice bill was President Trump's bill. And if there's an issue that's going on with funding Muslim schools or Muslim schools teaching Sharia law in Tennessee, that has to do with the Department of Education, who approves the curriculum for those schools. So if there's an issue with Muslim schools, what has anyone done about contacting the Department of Education to find out if they're teaching Sharia law and if they are removing their curriculum approval? So look, it is not about, the issue of Sharia law has nothing to do with school choice. It has to do with the Department of Education. And I sent a letter to the Department of Education asking about that.
All right. And Mr. Warner wanted to rebut that. You got 30 seconds.
Thank you, Richard. Listen, I'm all about school choice. I support President Trump's effort on school choice. But what we passed in Tennessee wasn't a true school choice bill. For example, in Franklin City has a special school district. My kids go to Marshall County School. If I want to take them from Marshall County to that special school district in the city of Franklin, I can't use that voucher money. But if I want to take my kids to a Muslim school, they can use that money. We did fund Muslim schools here, and they knew what they were doing when they funded it. It was wrong.
All right, folks, that's the end of the questions. I'm going to give each of the candidates 1 minute to sum what they've talked about tonight or whatever they think is most important, kind of like a reverse stump speech at the very end of it. And we're going to start with Ms. Charlotte.
I get the best questions. Todd, I just wanted to say to you, and I'm calling your name, are you saying that other members in the General Assembly are not doing what they say they are doing? I just wanted to say that. Now, in terms of me, I'm Charlotte Bergman. I am the reconciliation candidate that is running. If you remember in Senatobia, just recently, a 1-year-old was shot, and now they've got someone like Ben Crump coming to Mississippi, coming to Memphis, coming to Shelby County. Why? To stir up trouble. They are trying to stir up trouble. I'm a candidate that believes that a house divided against itself will fall. I am the reconciliation candidate that can bring both Republicans and Democrats together. Once we do that, because on both sides of the house, people do want to come together, whether one believes it or not. People want to. And that's what I'm going to fight for, to make sure that our nation, our country is great, and we come together to work for a cause to make this nation better.
Oh,
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeremy. You're next.
Dave needs to rebuttal, I think, because his name was called.
You can't do a rebuttal on a closing statement. I'm sorry.
but you do have a closing statement. All right.
Is my time reset?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, this is where I'm at with it. Nobody's talked about God tonight. I'm going to talk about God for a minute. This country started taking a southern turn when we took God out of everything we do. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's mentioned 5 times in our Declaration of Independence and United States Constitution. So anybody that wants to argue with me about we're not a Christian nation and we weren't founded on the principles of Christianity, they can go home. That's just the simple answer. You do not have to come to the United States and live the good lives that we and our ancestors have built and stay here and continue to contaminate our processes, our livelihoods, and what we believe is good. Men and women have fought and died for now 250 years to sustain this nation, not to let panty-waisted politicians to go to D.C. and get caught up in the conversations that represent less than 1% of what's going on in America, for us to be overrun by a bunch of people that don't believe like we do. So we started this country with 7 articles, 27 amendments. We now have 220,000 laws that we have to go by. We have to get rid of that. We have to get government back accountable to the people, not the other way around. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank y'all for coming out. This makes it a lot easier when y'all come together for us to find voters than for us to go out and try to find the voters, which we do each and every day. Look, thank y'all for coming. Richard, thank you for the questions. Look, I am the senator who has fought and not backed up. I'm the senator who fought and won. I fought crime in Memphis when we were talking about making Memphis matter, by making Memphis safe. My efforts led to President Trump sending the Memphis Safe Task Force to Memphis to cut crime in half. I have led on efforts of illegal immigration. I carried a lot of the legislation that was White House-backed legislation dealing with immigration in the state Senate this past year. And I also have fought China. I have stood up and fought China to ensure that they don't get our farmland, that they don't get our mineral rights underneath our farmland, and that they don't get our intellectual property and trade secrets through funding of lawsuits. I'm asking for your vote, your support, to go to Congress, to fight. I won't back up, and I'm a fighter who wins. Thank you.
Now, Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Richard, and thank y'all again for being here. Once you get to know me, once you'll find out more about me, I'm pretty much a straight shooter. You know, I'm gonna get to the point real quick. I'm not gonna talk 5 minutes to get a point across. It should take 30 seconds. No, I didn't say the General Assembly didn't do their job. The point I was trying to make, Charlotte, is we could have done a better job crafting a better bill. But we were called in under a special session, and the books were cooked. That's what really happened. So anyway, and Richard knows that. He's down there enough in Nashville. He knows what went on. But again, it's an honor to be here with you tonight. Thank you for coming out in the weather. Be safe driving home. There's one promise I want to make you if you give me the opportunity to earn your vote. And that promise will be the same promise that I've made to my constituents as I've served them in the 92nd District in Nashville, is you will have a voice. I will be your voice. I will listen, and I will be your representative. I will not forget where I come from. I haven't done that in Nashville in the 92nd District, and I will not do it in the 9th Congressional District. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and to reiterate what one of the candidates said before, what we've got as a problem in Tennessee is a paucity of individuals involved in politics. I'm a student of history, and anybody that hangs around me or has had to listen to me testify in a committee will know that one of the things that I've said all along is you can't be afraid of politics. Pericles said this 4 centuries before Christ. Just because you don't take an interest in politics does not mean that politics will not take an interest in you. And so what you need to do, what I notice here tonight, there's no youngsters here. Where are the kids? Where are the people who are 18 years old that could be picked up and, well, all right, you're not 14, you're not 13, but I don't see people bringing their kids here like they used to do to church. And what they used to do is they used to bring them to the political events, because if you're not informed, if you're not aware, then you're not going to be a part of the resolution to the problem. It's going to be necessary that each and every one of us make sure that we ask the questions, we make sure that we get the answers that we want, and that we're politically connected. Article 1, Section 23 of the Tennessee State Constitution says that it's your duty to instruct your representatives. If you don't do that, you are failing in your responsibility to your nation, to your state, and to your children. Thank you for all coming out tonight. I appreciate the time that you've got, and candidates, I thank you for your answers. We're done.